Ladies and gentlemen, uh, this is Susan Lawrence. Look, I got a problem with the media, and I'm going to express myself about this. They got this woman's last name spelled two different ways out here in these articles. Ladies and gentlemen, they did the same thing when it came down to that city bike incident. They had that woman's name spelled two different ways out in the media. And I really believe they're doing this to cause confusion. And it's funny, I don't see y'all getting names confused when it's a black suspect. But when, recently we've seen this with the white women, y'all can't seem to get names right. I'm just taking notes here. So, y'all, let's get into this latest update. This woman was finally arrested for killing AJ Owens, and she should have been arrested immediately. This is from public pressure. All right. The public was upset that the police took this woman in, they questioned her, and then let her go. So, a white woman who fatally shot black neighbor through front door arrested on manslaughter and other charges. So, a white woman who fired through her front door, killed a black neighbor, was arrested Tuesday. This is according to authorities in the case. So, I guess when she went in for questioning, she tried to use stand your ground. And this definitely was not stand your ground. So the shooting sparked widespread anger and protest. So this was Marion County Sheriff's Office said Susan Lawrence, 58, was arrested with manslaughter, with a firearm and other offenses. AJ Owens, 35-year-old mother of four, was killed Friday night in a shooting. Sheriff Billy Wood said the accumulation of a 2.5-year feud between the neighbors. Now, ladies and gentlemen, other people have come forward and saw Susan. They said she was excessively nasty to those children. And that tells me the sheriff department didn't do their job, because if she was doing that to children and they did not arrest her before, they didn't do their job, because they said they were called dozens of times over, the incident that she was having with the children. And I don't like how I was looking at articles. She approached this woman approached those children aggressively on multiple occasions. And the sheriff's office, whenever they called, they handled it as a dispute between two neighbors instead of apprehending her for all of her aggressions that she was making towards those children. That's very inappropriate, and she should have been arrested. So, anyway, they lived in Rolling Hills, south of Ocala, North Florida City. That's the heart of the state's horse country. So, according to the sheriff's office, evidence showed that over time, Lawrence became upset over Owen's children playing in a field close to the apartment. Now, she only was a tenant in an apartment. That was all this woman was. Okay, so when she was out there screaming, "She owns the field," that's just some white supremacist colonizer mess. That's all that is. So anyway, on Friday night, the office said Lawrence got into an argument with the children, again, inappropriate. She's fighting, this 58-year-old woman is fighting with children that range between 3 and 12 years old. Totally inappropriate. And was overheated, yelling at them by a neighbor. So During the argument, the office continued that Lawrence threw a roller skate at Owen's 10-year-old son, hitting him in the toe. The boy and his 12-year-old brother went to speak to Lawrence, and she opened her door and swung an umbrella at them. They told their mother what happened, and Owens approached Lawrence's house, knocked on the door multiple times, and demanded Lawrence come outside. And she fired one shot through the door, striking Owens in her upper chest. At the same time she was shot, Owen's 10-year-old son was standing beside her. This is according to the sheriff's office. Deputies responded to a trespassing call at the apartment Friday night and found Owen suffering from gunshot wounds. She later died at the hospital. First of all, if she swung on these children with an umbrella, that's not stand your ground. That's not stand your ground. And as you see, when I get later into the article, neighbors witnessed how vicious this woman was towards those black children. And my question for her neighbors is, why didn't anybody confront her or report that? You witnessed it. So, anyway, when questioned by the sheriff's office, Lawrence claimed she acted in self defense. No, if you opened your door and swung on those kids with an umbrella, no, that was not self defense. And that Owens was trying to break down her door. I don't believe that woman was doing that. I think she was just making up an excuse to get away with murder. She claimed Owens was trying to break down her door. I don't believe that. So Lawrence also claimed that Owens had come after her in the past and had previously attacked her. The office continued, well, it seems like you've been attacking her children the entire time. You know, most mothers are not going to take that off of a neighbor. So, but detectives were able to establish that Lawrence's actions were not justifiable under Florida's law, and she was arrested, the office said. The manslaughter charge she is facing is punishable for up to 30 years in prison. And the office noted that also she was charged with culpable negligence, batteries, and 2 counts of assault. She should be charged for how she treated these kids. So, anyway, Billy Woods said in a statement that he wants to thank Mrs. Owen's family for their patience as we conducted a diligent investigation that we were bound by law to conduct. Miss Lawrence's fate is now in the hands of the judicial system, which I must and will deliver justice in due course. As I go to bed tonight, I will be saying a prayer for Mrs. Owen's children and the rest of her family. I'd like to ask all of you to do the same. So this is what the sheriff said, Billy Woods. So Owen's family called for the arrest. Yes, they did. And I watched that news conference, and that was just heartbreaking seeing her children standing there, and they're not going to see their mother again. You know, this is horrible, horrible the way this thing unfolded. And in my opinion, the sheriff's office did not do their job. You know, and the way she was out there treating those children and they did not act, the sheriff's office is at fault for that. So they had a vigil Monday night for AJ Owens. Her mother, Pamela Diaz, said she was seeking justice for her daughter and grandchildren. My daughter, my grandchildren was shot and killed. And she said her son was standing by her. She had no weapon. She posed no imminent threat to anyone. Civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who's representing Owen's family, said in a statement that the shooter had been yelling racial slurs at the children before the confrontation. And I believe that. But the one thing I don't like in the story were her children were trying to deal with Susan here when they should not even attempt to do that. They should have went straight to their mother. But, things probably happened so fast and people just wasn't thinking. But he also represented we know Ben Crump represented Trayvon Martin, and we know what happened to him. And, what George Zimmerman did was not stand your ground, but the state of Florida accepted what he did. He approached Trayvon. Okay, if you approach somebody, that's not stand your ground, but the state of Florida accepted that as stand your ground. So anyway, the sheriff's office hasn't confirmed whether the slurs were uttered. Well, we know Susan here is never going to tell the truth about that. And quite frankly, I believe those children. I don't believe they're making that up because when you look at all the aggressive behavior she had towards those black children, I wouldn't doubt for 1 second that she used racial slurs. I believe them. So anyway, about 3 dozen mostly black protesters gathered outside the Marion County Judicial Center Tuesday to demand the shooter be arrested. And in the country's latest flashpoint over race and gun violence. So the chief prosecutor, state attorney William Gladson, met with the protesters and urged patience in the investigation. So Wood said Monday detectives were working with the state attorney's office and had to investigate possible self-defense claims because this is what Susan Lorincz was claiming that it was self-defense before they could move forward with any possible criminal charges. The sheriff pointed out that because of the stand your ground law, he couldn't make an arrest unless he could prove the shooter didn't act in self defense. On Tuesday, a stuffed teddy bear and bouquet marked the area where Owens was shot. Nearby children were riding bikes and scooters and playing basketball. So it wasn't just her children over there. It was a lot of children that went in that area to play. Protesters chanted, the usual. They did the say her name and no justice, no peace. Y'all know what they say when they're out there protesting. So there is a woman that lived directly across the street from them. And she said, her name was Lauren Smith, 40 years old. She lived across the street from where the shooting happened. She says she was on her porch that day and saw one of Owen's sons pacing and yelling, "You shot my mother! You shot my mother!" Wow. She ran towards the house and started chest compressions until the rescue crew arrived. She said when, she was sitting on her porch, she didn't see an altercation. But, Owens was over there. She did not have any weapon or anything. Wow. So she was angry all the time that the children were playing out there. So she's talking about Susan that you're looking at in this picture. This neighbor that lived across the street said she saw her angry all the time at the children that were playing. She would say nasty things to him, just nasty. Smith, who is white, described the neighborhood as family friendly. So this white neighbor would sit on her porch and watch Susan go over to those children and just be straight up nasty to them. But it's supposed to be hard to believe that she used racial slurs, huh? Yeah, right. I believe those children. And like I said, if people around there witnessed this happening, then the sheriff should have arrested Susan a long time ago. She shouldn't have been doing that to children and getting away with it. So the sheriff said since January 2021, the deputies have responded to a half dozen calls in connection with the police describing feuds. Now, this went beyond feuds. If she was threatening children and being aggressive with them, no, Susan should have been arrested. They're trying to make it look like it was just some bickering between two women when it went a lot further than that. There was a lot of aggressiveness. The sheriff said the shooter told investigators whether it be banging on doors, banging on walls, threats being made, then at the moment when Miss Owens was shot through the door. In my opinion, the sheriff's office failed to do their job when this woman was acting out, being violent and aggressive towards these black children. And the sheriff's office kept handling it like, oh, this is just some bickering between these two women. And I think they are at fault for not dealing with Susan appropriately. She has no business going up to nobody in this country have any business going up to somebody else's child and being aggressive. If you got problems with the children, you go to the parents. You don't get up in children's faces throwing roller skates, swinging on them with umbrellas and all that. Nah, you don't do no mess like that. And when things were reported about her aggressive behavior and that sheriff's department failed to do their job, they are just as responsible for what this woman did. Their lack of action towards her over the last 2.5 years led to the death of this mother, AJ Owens. That's how I see the entire thing. This is just another case of a sheriff's department, a police department failing to do the job because of the face of the aggressor. Y'all, please tell me what you think about this video. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.